We've just had an amazing session on artificial intelligence, and there's another one right now, Abhishek. We'll take this one, a little deeper with respect to artificial intelligence and see how a born digital company is leveraging AI to redefine the insurance industry. So to start off with, Abhishek, customers today have become very demanding, and it's becoming really tough for, companies to meet their demands. But as the old adage goes, customer is king. Companies will, have to meet these demands of hyper-personalization. So, as a SaaS platform, as a born digital company, how are you leveraging technology to enable hyper-personalization, for your customers, with insurance customers?
Sure, Yashvendra. Let me take that one. And I apologize to coming in between the lunch and you guys. So we'll keep it quick. Just to answer the question, I think, customer is the king, and you're supposed to be serving them well. I think what happens here is that, and like you mentioned, that we brought in the world and the age where we were, in the beginning itself, lynching on to the technologies that are sort of a little futuristic, and we developed ourselves with a platform which was absolutely new age. Now what happens here is that the expectations of technology coming in and replacing anything which is human is quite stark in terms of the differentiation of what it starts with. So what it starts with is usually something which is not closely, sort of capable of doing the things which a human can do. And then what you would want to achieve with that in the beginning is to standardize and to scale. So what you're willing to sacrifice is that, okay, I want to scale up and I can't hire human resources as quickly as I can otherwise in the world, and then take up those resources which may be very cyclic in nature. But I would also want to standardize my approach because my resources and the skill set may be varying a lot. So what we try and do there is that we've embedded ourselves with the new age technologies to manage both the scales and the capability side of the skill set side of thing, and not deploy ourselves on the NLP world and go to the LLM world directly, and to say that, okay, we are working on the prompts, we're working on the guardrails, we're working on a human-like approach where we are providing the technology, the automation, the platform, integrated and a unified approach to be able to deal with anything and everything that you would want to do across the different teams and segments and throughout the journey of the customer, from the beginning of prospecting to a customer being onboarded, to a customer, on the cross-sell upsell journey, and then they're on the renewal persistency or lapsed customers being brought in. So all of that coming through in a journey which is more personalized and which is more accurate in the approach and effective and cost-effective in all senses. So that's where I think we're working towards from our approach standpoint.
Sure. Abhishek, but what does this shift to dynamic and integrated customer engagement mean for an insurance company? I mean, does it mean that the company has to be omni-channel, really proactive, work in real time? And how are you as a company, Credgenics, enabling insurance companies to do that?
Right. So I think the two words are very important and relevant, and these are, substantiated into any kind of results and matrices that we measure today, right? So how much are we converting into the leads? How much of those leads are converting into the policies, and then how much of that is coming through into an incremental revenue and cross-sell, upsell, and all of that. And these are the matrices that we all measure. So what we're trying to do here is that dynamic, change and shifts within the behavior of the customer and how they how you segment them into the spectrum of different kind of the customer, geography and the age and demography and the employment status and all of that, and the products within, where the range is so wide and the spectrum is so wide, you would have to be very, very dynamic. There is no one shoe fit all kind of a strategy that can be applied there. So when you have this whole spectrum of different products and you have the spectrum of behaviors of customers and the personas of the customer, you would have to have a dynamic approach. So when you try and do that in a disintegrated manner, it breaks. Like one of my colleagues was mentioning, that you work like a crew and everything has to come together. It is the similar example there as well. It's a symphony. it all has to come together in one place because you need to use that data. You need to use the information to be able to understand the behavior of the customer, consume it, use it in the next step of the journey so that you're applying the right strategy and the right effective channels based on how the customer behavior is and how they're consuming it. So the integrated approach and the dynamism around how the decile of this customer is changing and how my strategy should change is very, very relevant and important. And I think that's where we are also focusing, and the customers are also demanding that today.
Sure, great. So Abhishek, today, most top management in companies want to leverage artificial intelligence, but there have to be use cases as well, And a lot of these companies are facing challenges in coming up with relevant use cases. In the previous panel, we heard from the panelists how they were leveraging artificial intelligence in their organizations, some use cases, practical use cases. Could you throw some light on, some use cases of AI, voice or video that organizations can maximize, can implement?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. I think it is very, very relevant across, like I was talking about, the journey, right? So when you're starting to approach a prospect or a lead, you have the opportunity to reach out to this customer to present the right option and the proposal. And this should be a fitment, right? Where scale to reach out to so many of the customers in your prospect list with the approach of dynamically changing the product and dynamically changing what you're proposing to them with the right channel, because you may have a demography which is a whole spectrum of all the languages that you need to cater to, the kind of urban, rural populations that you need to cater to. So you need to be doing that in a very, very, I would say specific approach where, while the earlier method was that I would create specific segments, the segments aren't really segments. These are the cohorts which are dynamically shifting themselves. And within the cities or the demographies, there is a population which is behaving very differently. So what we need to look at is these sub-cohorts and the behavioral attributes, which are basically helping us derive our approach in a very effective manner. And there comes the channels, right? So what is the channel that I'm effectively responding to? So as a consumer, I may be very proactive on a WhatsApp, and I may not take the calls that I get. And you have these regulatory compliances today, right? Calling from a 1400 number, a transactional from a 1600 series number, and people are, disconnecting the calls right there. So the voice channel is not working there. So what do I do there? So I would need to effectively use other channels, and then there, the use cases would be across the journey. So I can say that I can use effective channels like AI, video. Now there, it is absolutely personalized and hyper-personalized for a particular customer. So what we're saying is, let's say if I'm approaching a customer to sell a policy, then I can be interacting with them as an individual, a human, talking to them in their name, talking to them in the approach of what we're proposing to them in a very, very personalized manner with all interactive approach where I have a video being sent to a customer where they can click upon something, yes, I'm interested, or let's say I would want to explore more or get a call back, or let's say pay my renewals or a lapse policy, can I explain them through an awareness campaign? So all these are various use cases across the spectrum. I may also develop AI models to define what would be my cross-sell upsell strategy across the spectrum of the customers that I have, where again, I would be using these channels like Talking PDF, for example. I can send out a proposal which is reading out itself to the customer. And the customer has the ability to choose the language, to choose any action buttons, go into the specifics of understanding the specific language, where I have a voiceover to explain and break it down into a very simple manner. And the customer can really understand it. So I don't need a human sitting there in front of them and explaining that to them. And it is at my time, at my pace, and I can be responding to these channels at any time. You have regulatory compliances, for example, right? I can only contact a customer from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., for example. Now, what do I do if the customer is only available after 7? And do they have the opportunity to reach out to me or to look at what I want to share with them and respond it at their ease and at their time through their preferred channel at the preferred time, right? So these channels become very, very effective. An automated way of handling all of this across the spectrum of the behaviors and use that to the advantage that we are effectively communicating with the customer. So I think the channels and both of the cohorts, the AI rule engines that you deploy are actually amalgamated into these strategies.
Thanks for sharing those very innovative use cases, Abhishek. I wanted to ask a question around return on investment on AI deployments. Most of the times, technology leaders in companies fail to show or display the ROI to their top management. More often than not, in the case of CIOs and CTOs. How can they overcome this, and how can you actually show the benefit or the ROI of an implementation, AI implementation, to your management?
So I think it's a most difficult question in any conversations that you try and do when you pitch anything as a technology or a solution to a customer. But it's very relevant. And I think anything, if it has to be adopted, moved ahead, would be on the basis of what would be my ROI or what is the metrics that I'm going to improve. Luckily for us, in this industry, we have matrices for everything, right? So anything which you deploy today in any of the journeys and any of the use cases would result into a metric improvement. For example, what is my persistency rate? Can I improve it? Today I'm sitting at, let's say, 57% of renewal persistency. Can I take it to 65%? Now what I need to do is clearly, let's say, adopt or define a pilot project where I can say that, okay, 20% of my pool, I can try and run this new channels or strategies, and then see if I get an uptick on that, then one of the two things will happen. Either I would then look at a technology adoption to try and do this on 100% of base internally, which a lot of people would have the capacity to do. The other way of looking at it is I choose a partner or multiple partners to work with who are in the space, and I say that, okay, I divide this portfolio into all of these partners and do champion challenger and see if I can even do better, from where my base lands today. So I think there the ROI is very clearly visible because the matrices are very, very measurable. It's not very subjective. These are all very objective outcomes that we are wanting to measure of how much is my revenue number going up, how much is my persistency going up, what is my lapsed policy renewals ratio that I can get to. So all of that is because measurable, becomes easier for us to look at how the return on investments come in, the money that I spend in to use any of these technologies or services, what is the outcome that I'm getting in real terms of my revenue and my margins there, right? And this would also be very varying, right? So we have, let's say, a premium of 500, 700 in certain product, and we would also have a premium of maybe 50,000 in a different product. So you would deploy different kind of technologies, and the viability will also differ for different kind of these use cases and the products and the channels that you may want to deploy. So it is not a single answer, but when you get into the specifics of it and you discuss about what is more viable, you can take up these projects to initiate some of the pilots and see how it can result into some of the uptake that you can get on the numbers and what it is really meaning in terms of the investments. Sorry for the long monologue, but I think
sure.
difficult
Very
question to
insightful.
answer.
Yeah, definitely. One last question, Abhishek, before we wrap up this session. AI has been evolving. We had artificial intelligence, then we had Gen AI, and now we're talking about agentic AI. Where do you see AI heading in the next, a year or so? What is the next level of evolution for AI? And how do you see it revolutionizing customer experience and marketing in the insurance sector?
I think if you look at it, and this is a very interesting part of how the technology is evolving, right? And any prediction related to that, I think, would have been in terms of number of years, and we say that, it's not like real estate. We say that I've invested into this place which is farther out of the city. It will take about 10 years to develop, right? It's not working that way. In technology, it is like, people have predicted that, okay, this is something which will come closer to how today human interactions work in, let's say, 5 years, 7 years, and it has actually happened now. Look at the way that, all of these platforms are giving out the ability for any common user to use, let's say, a Perplexity or a, Gemini or any of this. The simplification of the work has happened. It is not now a discussion of the future. It is something that if you are investing your time into, you can actually do it now. In a similar manner, I think the way that this is going to work, and I read somewhere that Elon Musk is saying that the world is moving into a direction where you don't have to worry about the money. The money will not be relevant, right? It will be mostly that you can have a choice whether you want to work or not, because AI is going to do most of the work. And you will have enough resources to suffice for yourself. It is not a risk. He's saying it's not a risk. People would take it now there's a contradictory opinion as well that you're losing jobs, so what will and how will the money come in? He said money is irrelevant at some point. So there'll be resources, and resources will be traded in a very different manner, right? So I think what we're getting to at is a very, very different age where you would have AI coming in to do very, very precise things for you. And it will all, it has become simplified already. You're not talking about coding, you're talking about prompts, right? Where anybody can go in and use these tools. As a business user, it doesn't need to be having deep technology intelligence to use and consume them. Because it has become that commoditized, it is easier for adoption. And when adoption increases, the research and the work that happens behind it increases faster. So I think that's where we are. What we think may come in tomorrow is actually happening today, and it'll just prop up someday, and you'll realize that it is already being consumed in some fashion. So which is where I think we need to get onto the nerve of how the changes are happening and not take a lot of time to leverage and probably invest a lot internally and try and use the efficient ways of consuming these services through the partners who've already invested to provide some of these services immediately, because that will show you the results immediately.
And I would really eagerly await for the time when we don't have to work and money is not an issue, like Elon Musk said. So thank you so much, Abhishek, for that lovely conversation.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.